Well, Dave, how's it going?
Hey, Stephen. Doing all right.
Did you get some doctor's advice by now on your medical complaint?
Oh, yeah, I've seen my expert, and then a treatment plan has started. Yes,
Oh, okay. What did he recommend?
low oxalate diet, and some supplements.
All right, yeah. Oxalates. I have heard of them before. They're in certain types of foods, are they?
That's right. You can't do it all at once. You gotta taper. So if you're eating 1,000 milligrams a day, then you reduce that by 50, and then 50, and then 50. You got to go slow. Can't go from 1,000 to zero because that would be bad.
All right, yeah. Well, it sounds like something that a Gundry guy would be going on about.
I've got a book. I can send you the PDF. I have.
You've got the book. What book is that? Let's see. Yeah, sure. He's always saying that plants uh, create anti-pest substances, uh, substances to attack the animal life, insect or whatever that tries to feed on them. And these foods are not particularly desirable. He claims in many cases you can modify this by processing the food, which a lot of old ancient cultures seem to have done, which can get will deactivate the bad element. Spinach, Swiss chard, beets, rhubarb, sweet potatoes, potatoes with skin, eggplant. Yeah, I remember Gundry, yeah, saying spinach was you're better off avoiding spinach. So oxalates must have been one that he was wary of.
Hmm.
But this seems to be sort of a standard medical position. Okay, so we're into the specials. So now and again, Marble would produce a special to try and make more money, of course.
Yeah. Well, this Red Nails originally appeared in black and white in one of their magazines.
Oh, right. So they created a coloured edition. So we've got his favourite girl here, Valeria, the pirate girl.
Yeah. No, this was one of the stories in Savage Tales in black and white.
This is an updated version then.
Well, no, it's the same story, same comic. It's just with color.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, it's
It's been
been
updated.
colored. Yeah. Yeah. So everything we did this week was the Savage Tales stories.
I wonder how she keeps her complexion without a hat. Okay, he's been attacked by a dinosaur of some variety. Uh, I suppose the figures look quite competent, don't they? It's very nicely detailed and that. What do you reckon?
It's nice to have Barry Smith back, I would say. Yeah, not really anybody else comes up to Smith's standards when on Conan. It's nice to see him back again.
No, he just happens to have some poisonous apples handy. Oh well, he manages to knock it off the old way with a slice of the sword. Now the tale is a curious one, so it's a sort of a sealed off society. Could always imagine it like one of those science fiction stories where you've got a spaceship which is so large that various parts of it have become nations. So I think it was a 70s show like that. It was about an arc traveling from Earth to a new star. And they had different cultures in domes. No, that was it.
The Star Lost. The Star Lost.
And well, I'll just remember one thing. Yeah, that could be the name. Duella was
I
the main.
believe that's the Star Lost.
And he sort of belonged to a society. It was a bit like the Amish or something, sort of a Calvinist name. Star loss. All right.
The Star Lost.
I actually tried to show. I did. I showed Natalia an episode, but she wasn't overly impressed. I showed her the first episode. It was on YouTube somewhere. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a bit offbeat, but I did enjoy it. So it's a show that you've watched or just seen an episode or two.
Um, I haven't sat down to fully watch it, but I've seen clips here and there.
Well, it's almost a bit. Oh, I know. I just don't know with Valeria. What's a nice girl like her doing in a place like this? They get involved in the local politics, and each
Mhm,
side's
mhm,
convincing you that
mhm.
they're the good guys. Somebody with a skull mask. A labyrinth story. So in a sense, they're in a labyrinth in a sealed off environment. Well, he's got his immortal queen. Tends to be a bit of a knockout too. Oh, well, it was pleasing to the eye. I don't know if I fully appreciated the convoluted story.
Well, this Red Nails, according to Wikipedia, was Howard's final Conan story.
Well, we've got a gallery of heads.
Published posthumously.
Yeah, I think yes, right. I did look it up. Yeah, so it came out after he'd offed himself.
Hmm.
So it was in three parts, was it? The story.
Yeah, this is, as always, Roy Thomas adapting the original story. Translating it to the comics medium. By now, you can see that Barry Smith is really developing a very unique style. I thought quite pleasing, but we've talked about his artwork before. He went on to do some really cool stuff in the 80s.
Oh, okay, I did listen to the poem on YouTube.
Yeah.
I was trying to make out this image. Who the hell's he stepping on? That's just a load of bodies. Barry Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, I went with the color edition of the story rather than the black and white original. Figured you'd appreciate that more. But the rest of the Savage Tales stories are only in black and white. If we continue, we'll get back to the main Conan series next month. Pick up pick up where we are. But in order to keep with the continuity, we had to pick up the Savage Tales stories.
Okay, I thought this one was particularly outstanding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, you look at the sort of the imagery here. It's like this one, man of work that's gone into it.
Yeah. Neil Adams.
The Night of the Dark God.
Gil Kane.
O- Okay, who have we got? Roy Thomas script.
Gil Kane and Neil Adams.
Uh,
Adapted from The Dark Man.
okay, I didn't check that one out. I don't think when I was looking up this lost girlfriend of his, I don't think she showed up in Howard's original work, so she looks like she might be an add-in.
Hmm. Possibly. I think by now we got the idea that Roy Thomas does know, solid story structure. He's a very commercial writer. He can produce a solidly entertaining, structured story.
Uh, Night of the Dark God is based on the story The Dark Man by Roy Thomas. We've noticed you're using ad blocker. Now, this is one that I don't use that much. This is Opera. I did put ad blocker on it at one stage, but now YouTube will shoot you if you've got ad blocker.
It's inconsistent, I found. It also does depend on the browser as well. That changes things too. Yeah.
The Dark Man was the original. So he's must have liberally adapted it. Okay, so this is something that's been set in ancient Ireland, the original.
Yeah, we've talked about what the Hyborian age might be before.
Okay. Turlo tries to rescue the daughter of King Brian Boru from a tribe of Vikings. Okay. It was also adapted as a Conan story by Marvel Comics.
Right.
Howard earned $85 for the story. All right. The Dark Man is a gripping tale set in the ancient rugged landscapes of Connecticut. It begins with Turlo Dubber, an exiled warrior of the clan Nee O'Brien, encountering a fisherman on the snowy shore. Right, yeah. Daughter of a Dalclasian chief abducted by Viking raiders, led by Forfall the Fair. Ah, right. Moya's forced wedding to Forfall in a desperate act of defiance. Moya takes her own life. Okay, yes, this is more or less straight adaptation of a different, a non-Conan Howard story. Okay, so well, this is a story with more depth than the normal Conan story, it seems. Uh, I think it is. This story is just much better laid out than anything else I've seen in this line.
No, Gil Kane and Neil Adams. Hard to hard to get any better than that.
Well, he spent 2 or 3 pages just on the thing with the fisherman. So it's quite a lot of time has gone into explaining the scenario with the fisherman. And Conan's making his way across the ocean. He's reminiscing about Marla. So this is something that was never really in Howard. Howard doesn't really give us a story about Conan's childhood. He might make slight mention of it where he came from, but that's the world Conan left behind. When I was checking out his, almost his first story, successful story, is actually about Conan becoming the king of that state he coveted. Okay, there's a page recounting his various adventures. But I'd say this particular Conan story, artwork, everything is a cut above the rest. And suddenly the touch of the perfumed lemon-haired wench at his side was as repellent to him as if it were the clammy caress of a viper. He rose without a word or backward glance. Rides back to his homeland to discover his beloved has been kidnapped. Jess arrived at just a little bit too late. Then the original story, a load of Danes has been killed who were carrying the statue belonging to a tribe of small dark pigs. Well, let's group the Veni. So one of the Nordic groups.
Hmm.
Crazy outfits and horned helmets. Very Wagner. Well, he comes across a Vanir, strangles him. One of the party that the guy had slain the fisherman's wife. So he ended that bit of information. Okay, the Vanir chief is trying to marry Marla. It's actually an interesting thing why he abstracted. So this is a sort of an idealized Dark Ages, but why did he adapt it to Conan? Why was Conan the big success? He could have written, Howard could have done stories, which he did do a few of, which were within a known epic cycle, you know, the Viking Island. But he abstracted it, you know, right into much more of a fantasy world. No, I'll never marry you. Then I'll take you as a slave. Not that either, swine. And she stabs herself. Hammer of Hoda. Well, Hoda was the blind god, wasn't Thor.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, they've got this priest guy who was going to do the wedding. So he's fighting it out with the Vanir. Okay, and then he's saved by a strange horde, as if the cadavers of the earlier body-strewn vessel had come back to life. And suddenly the hall seems full of small, dark men. They pour through the door, a torrent of storm dark warriors. And she's still alive for her last words. And he throws his sword at the van-eared chief. He's made friend with the Picts. He returns the boat. Was he? Oops. No, he's sailing away with the boat. The priest of Mitra, who stands watching silently. Okay, sort of imagery I was seen in the science fiction store back in the 70s. Now you sort of look at this sort of stuff and you wonder, well, what the hell?
Mhm.
Okay, so spend a bit of time on this one. Who drew this one? Who did the cover? Art director. No, O Prince, of between the years when the oceans drank Atlantis and the gleaming cities, and the years of the rise of the sons of Aries. Between the years, right, okay, between the years of Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Aries, there was an age undreamed of. Someone savage this way comes. By the prickling of my thumb, I need water. I can give you those easily enough, the directions, but you'd do better to strike off my head and leave it laughing blackly in the dust. But better to pour poison in your own wine cup than to drink from a river with such a name. Look, I've told you I'm thirsty, that's it. From, but it's a far ride from Tehran to Shadizar. It's a far shorter haul, my rough-voiced friend, from the green-clad gardens of earth to the teeming shores of dusky death. Okay, struggles with the giant. Well, another lovely princess in erotic clothing. Okay, so some wizard working for another guy has corrupted the waters. Yeah, very nice little outfit. Well, I rather like her outline. I'm not sure about Conan's there. He looks a bit rough as they're embracing. Looks like the artist was quite inspired by this particular female form. Oh well, he breaks in and gets put in the clink. Fights with the other giant, who he befriends when the other giant discovers there is no cure for his condition. The wizard's trying to make some gold. And they fight it out. Rightio. And now, Lord Mayor, I'll claim my reward and be on my way. Reward. Oh, yes. As I recall, I promised you anything in the village you wanted. And I see what I want. The horse. Leaving her in dismay. Okay, this particular edition of Savage Tales was rather outstanding compared to the rest, I'd say. What do
Yeah,
you reckon?
that was well, I found out that was Neil Adams on the cover. You were admiring the cover. It's Neil Adams again. There, yeah, that's Neil Adams again. We've seen a few of his comics by now. But he didn't do the interior. I think that was Buscema. So now that we've done the Savage Tales stories, now we can go back to the regular Conan comic if we want to.
Well, this is the one Robert E. Howard book I've got buried in the garage somewhere. This is one I bought off the shelves probably in the mid-70s, so about 50 years ago.
Huh,
But it has a load of stories which have nothing to do with Conan.
sure.
But the stories were probably preferable. So he was investing himself in another kind of literature, and this is one of the ones which has the Grey God passes, which is the battle where the Irish defeated the Vikings. Which so he did a rather nice story around it. So I wonder who did this cover.
There's lots of websites that talk about those old 20th century paperback cover artists. Kind of fascinating.
Well, no, this is the well, this was the height, say, back in the 70s, was it? This sort of way out imagery. I
Looks
remember around the science fiction bookstore, which was a seedy little one. This is back in the 70s, before everything got glitzy. Your fan shops were seedy little affairs, which had been created by a fan. And the owners weren't so extremely money orientated as they became in the 80s. So it was a different culture. That it looks like 1980 was a huge turning point in culture, or by the mid 80s, the world was changing a lot. It had become very money orientated. The world had always liked money, but never this much. The science fantasy, which I'd read when I was in my early teens, had been three novels of Brack the Barbarian, which my mother got off a friend at work, and I rather enjoyed them. But the covers weren't quite up to this standard, or some of the standards we've been looking at.
Quality of the artwork on those old paperback books varied considerably.
So in this case, the artist hasn't left a signature. Because there'd been an earlier publication of this one as well.
Yeah, you have to find the information for the edition you're talking about. Kenneth used to do covers for paperbacks.
Rightio. Did he have much success?
No?
Well, here's an early edition of the same one, which is in an offbeat sort of way, more sort of interesting.
I'm sure the information
Okay, right. The earlier, this 1972 version didn't have the Grey God passes, which is one of my favourite stories. This had Marches of Valhalla and the Thunder Rider. Now, I remember one of the stories is about a cripple who is living in Texas and is visited by the ghost or something of a priestess figure who tells him his story of a previous incarnation in ancient Atlantis. Uh, before the Gulf of Mexico was created.
Yeah.
So this is one of my probably my favourite Howard story.
Hmm.
Twilight of the Grey Gods or the Grey Gods passes. Okay.
Wasn't that adapted in the comic Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah, we did see a version of it. That's right.
yeah.
Okay, next week, Hellblazer.
Hellblazer
Uh,
catch up.
yeah, I don't know how many I'll manage to do.
I keep saying if you did one a week, like I send them, you'd be up to speed. But
And I'm doing other comics every week. That's the trouble.
right, yeah. Well, you can't. Um, do you want to continue with Conan?
Uh,
Or
Probably unless, well,
another?
unless there's anything great and marvelous to come along after this, maybe
I,
there's a
I
version of the comic where he becomes the king, finally becomes the king of that destined realm of his. I think that was done in comic form later on. That'd probably be
that's
worth looking at because that was sort of one of the first stories.
well, yeah. By the time we hit King Conan, that's we're not close to that. But that is coming. That's up in the future. But yeah, that happens. Yeah.
Well, I suggest just jump straight forward to that one just for something different. So
Nah.
this is the adventures of Conan before he became the prophesied king, and it sounds like he did about as good a job as Oedipus. It was pretty good in the adventures leading up to becoming king, but it looks like his kingship sucked a bit. It's just my impression without ever seeing anything.
Hmm. All right, I'll see what I can see. I'll see what I can do. I don't suppose you opened up Shadow Show.
No, no, I haven't looked at that one. No.
It's not adaptations of Ray Bradbury's stories, but it's comics in celebration of Ray Bradbury. I just thought if we're going to be a completist about every comic that related to Ray Bradbury, that would have been included. But as I say, it's optional. Actually, there's some good things in there. Actually,
Probably the sort of comics I would prefer, and I probably said this from the beginning, is something which, let's say, does history.
you know,
So something that deals with something factual.
yeah. Well, we've done a lot of history, and I'm sure we'll do more as soon as we're clearing out some of the backlog. Uh, yeah, just pick up where you left off with Hellblazer and just read as much as you'd like until you get to a good stopping point.
Oh, I noticed Moore making the claim that he ran into a couple of figures that reminded him of Constantine. You can tell that this guy likes tripping, don't you? Uh, yeah, he's what? He's the sort of guy that Kierkegaard warned us about,
Hmm.
the eternal child. The aesthetic just never grew up, just living the aesthetic of the eternal childhood, looking for new impressions well, Kierkegaard said that, of course, you're also prone to feelings of despair because you haven't grasped the responsibility of an adult life, which leads to guilt because you never quite live up to the responsibilities. Well, anyway, Dave, I imagine you're looking better than a few weeks ago.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess I'll see you at Rick's next meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, all right.
Okay, see you next
Yeah.
week then for Hellblazer.
Hellblazer.
Okay, Steven.